Over the time to our presenter, Nathan Smith.
Thank you. Appreciate that introduction. I think I'd like to start out this afternoon with a couple of generalities about iPads and this whole new market of tablets and similar kinds of things. Having been a computer user all my life and now an iPad user, I find they're different devices. If you're thinking of buying an iPad thinking that it will replace your notebook, well, probably not. They're enough different that you'll probably miss your notebook. If you're buying the iPad because there are specific programs or apps that you could use there that will help you and further what you need to do, then it's probably a good purchase for you. The Apple computer just announced yesterday that they had a new iPhone out called the iPhone 4S, and it will be using a new operating system which will soon come to our iPads as well. And it also portends some of the things that are probably coming down the pipe at us. And so I'd like to start out with a little video that Apple did that talks about the iPhone 4S and some of the features that it has. I'd like you to watch this, and then I'll play a short one on the iCloud. This is about 4 minutes long.
Not only has 8 megapixels, but all new optics. iPhone 4S also comes with iOS 5 with over 200 new features and iCloud. And now we're introducing Siri.
How can I help you?
Siri is a whole new way of interacting with your iPhone using just your voice.
Find me an Italian restaurant in North Beach.
Okay, these 25 Italian restaurants are in North Beach.
It's like this amazing assistant that listens to you, understands you, can answer your questions, and can even accomplish tasks for you.
Move my meeting with Kelly Alltech to 12.
Note that you already have a meeting about budgets at 12 p.m. Shall I schedule this anyway?
Move it to 2.
A lot of devices can recognize the words you say, but the ability to understand what you mean and act on it, that's the breaker with Siri.
Read me my text.
New message from Tony Rivas. Are you going to the party?
Reply. Yeah, I'll meet you there. Remind me to grab the present when I get home.
Here's your reminder for when you get home.
It completely changes the way you think about what a phone can do for you.
One of the biggest advances for the iPhone 4S is in its performance. It uses the same powerful dual-core A5 chip that's in iPad 2. With 2 processors handling the workload, it really makes a big difference. Apps will launch and run faster. Graphics can render up to 7 times quicker, making gameplay a lot better. And in Safari, web pages will load up to twice as fast. And it's the world's first phone to intelligently switch between 2 antennas to transmit and receive calls. iPhone 4S is now a world phone, so both GSM and CDMA customers can roam worldwide on GSM networks. iPhone 4S also has an all-new 8-megapixel camera, which dramatically increases the amount of detail in your photos. But the quality of a photograph isn't just about megapixels. The optics of the camera are just as crucial, and we've made significant improvements here. We increased the size of the aperture to let more light in. We added a 5th lens, which gives you a sharper image overall. And the new sensor is designed to capture more light within each pixel, so you get far sharper photos with more detail and more accurate color. When you see the quality of the photos you get from this camera, it's hard to believe they came from a mobile phone. We also know people love to shoot video on their iPhone, so we've made some big advancements here too. iPhone 4S records 1080p HD video at 30 frames per second. Plus, the gyro, along with the incredible new software, will stabilize your video as you shoot it. This will make your videos look a lot smoother.
We've taken what was already an amazing camera and made it even better. Now with face detection, the camera is smart enough to know whether you're taking a portrait or a group shot and automatically focus and expose for either. You get quicker access to your camera right from the lock screen. You can use the volume button to take a photo, and then you can crop, enhance, and edit your photo right on your iPhone. iOS 5 gives you over 200 other new and improved features, including Notification Center, iMessage, and reminders. iPhone 4S also comes with iCloud. iCloud stores your music, photos, apps, mail, contacts, calendars, documents, and more, and wirelessly pushes your content to your devices automatically. With iCloud, you don't have to do anything. It just works.
We've thought through every square millimeter of what's inside the iPhone 4S. With the new dual-core A5 chip, it's so much faster. The new camera is incredible. It comes with iOS 5 and iCloud. And with Siri, your iPhone can do things no other phone has ever done. iPhone 4S is the most amazing iPhone ever.
One of the things that, you know, when I bought my first iPad and I was comparing it with my laptop and I'm saying, what do I wish this iPad could do that my laptop can't do? Well, there wasn't a way to hook my printer into it. There wasn't a way to hook a flash drive into it. It doesn't save files the way you normally do. And, you know, it's an evolving technology. One of the things that they were talking about was the iCloud, and you hear a lot about cloud in the technology lingo today. Basically, these are where your data, your apps, your things that you purchase are actually stored on somebody's server somewhere else outside of your home. I'd like to play just a little short video on the iCloud and kind of show you where the iPad may be going very soon.
With iCloud, when you buy a song on one device, it instantly downloads to all your others. Take a picture here, and it shows up there. Start a project in one place, and pick up right where you left off in another. Capture the moment here, and it's waiting for you there. Make a change on this, and it updates on that. And with iCloud, it all works automatically and wirelessly. So you always have the things you want exactly where you want them.
Okay, well, with that kind of as a background, that's where things are going in the future. It's on an iPhone now, but it'll be on iPads pretty soon, and you'll see the other tablets on the market competing in this way. What do I like about my iPad? I like that it's very portable. I like that it has a camera built into it. I've found apps that are very useful to me personally. I like reading books on it and things like that. So as you start exploring iPads, let's talk about some of the basics. First of all, when you crank up your iPad, you're basically going to see what I see on my screen here. Just a few apps, and you're probably thinking, all right, what can I do with them? Well, first of all, let's talk about the interface. It's a touch interface. You can either use your finger, or if you want, you can purchase a little stylus like I have in my hand here that does the same thing as your finger, basically. Let's talk about some basic gestures on the iPad. First of all, there's the tap, and you just touch something. So I'm going to touch this Photos app, and then it just comes in. If I do a pinch, by pinching I'm going to take my thumb and my forefinger and put them on top of that camera roll, and then I'm going to start spreading them out. That's an open pinch, like that. That lets you zoom in on things. It opens things up. So for example, if I wanted to see a particular photo in here, if I pinched it open, I can do that. Or I can pinch my fingers closed and it closes it back down again. Or I can just tap on it with my finger and it will open it up. Another thing that is a very basic gesture on the iPad is the swipe. So you take your finger and start on one edge and just swipe to the other. In the Photo app, this allows me to move from picture to picture. Also, another basic gesture is the double tap. If I double tap on a picture, it zooms in. If I double tap again on a photo, it will zoom back out again. I can also zoom in by pinching. So I'm doing an open pinch, now I'm doing a closed pinch. You can maneuver around that way. This touch is very intuitive. I am going to double click my home button, which is about the only button that's on the face of the iPad there. If I double click, down at the bottom you'll see other apps that I have opened up. I'm going to go into my Safari web browser for just a moment and go to a particular page. Another basic gesture is called the flick. And so if you just take your finger, it's kind of like, well, you just flick and things move. So this allows you to move across a lot of information, say on a web page, quickly. Now, if I just touch the interface and drag with my finger, you have a lot more control. We're finding here that the internet's just a little slow today, so that's why I'm having just a little bit of lag there. But flick or drag. One of the things in your Safari web browser is if you're on a column of text, if you double click on a column of text, it will automatically resize to fit in your screen. Double click again and you go back to your full page. Double click on a picture and it'll zoom in on that picture and double click back out. Those are some of the basic gestures that you can use. I'm going to click on my home button and go back to the main screen again. Each app may use these gestures in a slightly different way. For example, I'm going to go into my camera app, and there I am. If I take my finger and push on a particular part of the screen, tap on a particular part of the screen, that will focus the camera on that part of the screen. So I just clicked on me, now I'm focused on me. I click on the ceiling, it focuses on the ceiling, and I go out of focus. Down at the bottom of the screen you can see that I can either switch and take movies, or I can take photos. You'll hear a little click, and then it just goes in my camera roll down there. Another very important gesture is the tap and the hold. So for example, once you start getting more and more apps, I have pages and pages and pages of them, you may want to move them around and organize them a little bit. That tap and hold is an important function. If I tap and hold on any one of these apps, you'll notice that they'll start jiggling, wiggling, dancing, if you will. And that means I can do some various things with them. For one thing, I can move an app to another place. In fact, if I take an app, I can drag it clear to one edge of the screen and drop it in another place. You'll notice that the other apps move out of the way. Apps that did not come with the iPad, you'll notice that there aren't any little X's on any of those apps. That's because these all came standard with the iPod when you bought it, and you can't delete them. But any of the other apps that you have, you can delete just by pressing the X next to the app, and it'll say, are you sure you want to delete this app? If I hit delete, it's gone. I will cancel that because I'd like to keep that one. But anyway, that tap and hold gesture is an important one. In Safari, for example, if you have a link, if you tap on the link, it will take you there like any other web browser. If you tap and hold on a link, often you'll get a dialog box that will pop open, which allows you some other options. So I can either open it, or I can open it in a brand new page. Or I can copy the page. If you open it in a brand new page, here up at the top of the screen, you'll see that I have 5 pages open. If I click on that, you can see all the pages that I've opened. It's kind of the Safari's way of working in tabs. But I can click on any page to bring it to the front, and that way I can have multiple pages open at the same time. If I want to delete a page, I can just press the little X by it, and that page will go away. One of the things that I wanted to share with you about these technologies, these are so phenomenal. We're fitting a tremendous amount of storage space, a beautiful screen, into something that's only about 7 millimeters thick and weighs less than a pound. What I'm showing you right here is on microvision.com. Here is a projector. This company has developed a projector that uses laser beams that you can hook directly into your iPad, and then you can show your iPad or your iPod Touch on the wall, on the ceiling, on a tent if you go camping, things along that line. Very lovely image, not very bright, but the projector costs, well, I was on Amazon.com, saw one for $124, so somewhere between $124 and $300 for one of those, and pretty marvelous. I own one,
We have a question, Nathan,
Sure.
from a participant. Andrew Owens asked, with the camera roll, how do you rearrange pictures taken?
Okay. If I double-click my home button, I'll show you another thing that comes up. This shows you all the applications that you have opened up. And so, since I opened photos earlier, I can get back to it by double-clicking the home button and then just touching the photos. And there it is in memory. If you want to rearrange it, I basically do that on my computer and arrange them in iPhoto. On iTunes, when you hook an iPad into iTunes, one of the options in iTunes on the iPad is your photos. You can sync your photos, and you can choose albums. You can choose events in your iPhoto library, and when you sync those in, they're arranged the same way on your iPad as you had arranged them in iPhoto. Right now, there's not a way that I know of to actually rearrange them once they're on your screen. Does that answer your question all right? Let me talk just a little bit further about this. You can see applications that I've had open. One of the things that you'll find is that every once in a while you may have an app that starts misbehaving on you. It freezes up, or it's not acting the way that it should. Sometimes that's because you may have so many apps that you've opened and are kind of sitting here in the dock that you may have started to run out of memory on your machine. Again, if you tap and hold, these will start wiggling, and you can come in and turn off any of them just by pressing the little red minus button by any of them. Also, another feature that a lot of people don't know about their iPads is in this mode, if you swipe to the right, you'll see these controls which allow you to do a couple of different things. One is, you know how when you have the iPad, if you twist your iPad from portrait to landscape mode, that the whole screen turns around with you. Most people want that. You want it sitting the way that you had. However, every once in a while, it would be nice to be able to lock that screen position in so that no matter which way you turn the iPad, that screen wasn't going to rotate around on you. And right here, you can do that. This little button on the left lets you lock the orientation. It also gives you brightness controls. It allows you to control the volume or to mute the volume. If you're playing songs on the iPod app, play your songs, go next song, last song, and so forth. One of the buttons on your iPad that's located on the outside is there's a little switch just above the volume controls, and in your general settings you can choose what that button will do for you. You can have it either be a lock rotation button, so then that switch actually works like the lock rotation I was just showing you. And now if I double click and go in here, you'll notice that this has become a mute button instead. or you can choose to have it be a mute button. So whichever one works the best for you. Excuse me while I just take a quick drink here. My voice is fading. Let's talk a minute about the virtual keyboard. I'm going to go into notes here, and whenever you're in something that you can type on, if you tap, say, in a field or something along that line, your virtual keyboard appears. The new iOS is going to have a split keyboard that you can split it and then just use your thumbs. For those of you that are used to doing the little double thumb thing on a smartphone, you'll be able to do that on your iPad soon too. The keyboard is quite interesting. One of the things is if you rotate in portrait mode, you'll notice that your keyboard is smaller. And so whenever the keyboard is up, for me, I have bigger hands, I always rotate my display into landscape mode, and that gives me a bigger keyboard. So then I can type. I've found that with a little practice, I can type just about as fast on this virtual keyboard as I can on a regular laptop keyboard. A couple of good things to know about typing on the keyboard. This is your delete key, or this one with a little X. If you press and hold it down, it will begin by just deleting a character at a time, but if you continue to hold it down, it will start deleting a word at a time, and then if you hold it down long enough, it'll start a paragraph at a time. Another thing to note is that you'll notice that the Shift key has a blue arrow on it. That means that the letter that I'm going to type will be a capitalized letter. Now that I've typed that, you'll notice that it's just a regular black arrow, and when it's like that, everything will be lowercase. If I hit it manually, it means that the next letter that I type will be a capital letter and it'll turn off again. If I double tap it, the entire Shift key turns blue, and that means that everything I type will be in uppercase until I tap the Shift key again, and then it will. Another thing about using the keyboard is you'll notice that the numbers aren't there, and several of your special characters and things like that. Those are down by the space bar. And if you click on that, you'll see that we've switched into the number keyboard, where you get your 1 through 9 and several of your more common symbols. And then you'll notice that just next to this undo, and just under the return, there's a key that will give you additional characters and letters there. And then that turns into a 1, 2, 3, which will take you back to the numbers, or the ABC will take you back to the regular alphabetic keyboard. One of the things that's a shortcut if you happen to make a mistake, it will pop up something like this and say, well, I think you meant people. Most of the time it's pretty good at recognizing your mistakes and correcting it. So if I hit the space bar, it's going to insert the mistake, or insert the correction to the mistake. Every once in a while, it will try and insert something that's totally off of what you're trying to type. If you hit if you go back and type it again, it won't suggest again, but you'll notice that it has a red line under it. If you tap and hold on it, you can select that word and just start typing what you should have typed in there. If you then you can continue going. Another thing is if you do a double tap on the space bar, it will assume that you've ended the sentence and put a period in there for you. So that saves you having to go over and hit the period key. I want to do an apostrophe here, but I don't see an apostrophe on the keyboard. If you don't, you can pop over and oh, there it is on the next screen over. But there is a shortcut that most people don't know about, and that is if you just touch and hold the comma key, an apostrophe will pop up above it just like that, and you just slide your finger up and let go, and that will give you the apostrophe that you're looking for. Additionally, for those of you that are typing letters and you need some of the characters that have umlauts or accents or things like that over them, if you, let me press the O and hold, for example, you'll notice that a number of other characters will pop up. So if I wanted an O with an umlaut over it, all I have to do is just slide my finger up on it and let go, and I'll get that character. Again, on other letters like E's and so forth, those are all just waiting for you to go in there and find them. Another thing that I've found that if I slide my if I push in this one and I just a minute here. If I push on this one, now I'm in the special characters. If I just slide my finger up to something and let go, I'm automatically back in the ABC keyboard rather than having to tap that button again. So whatever works best for you. Those are shortcuts. I had my iPad 6 or 7 months before I learned those, and found those to be really helpful. If you need to get rid of the keyboard, you just push this little button, this key down in the very lower right-hand corner that looks like a small keyboard with a down triangle underneath of it, and that will take you out of the keyboard. Every once in a while, I've had people come to me who have said, well, I've got my iPad here and I click in here and the keyboard doesn't come up. What's happened to them most likely is that here in the general they've purchased for themselves a Bluetooth keyboard, and so they click on Bluetooth and they've turned that on. They've turned on their keyboard, and so the device is searching for it right now. It says, I see a mobile phone here, and when it finds your keyboard, you can tap on that. It'll give you a 4-digit code that you need to type on your keyboard in order to pair it. And once it's paired with it, then you can use that external keyboard to type on your iPad. And so I know a lot of people who like typing on a normal keyboard rather than the virtual one that do that. The only thing that happens to them every once in a while is they'll leave the keyboard at home and take their iPad with them and tap in here, and then all of a sudden the keyboard won't come up. That's because the iPad is thinking that that Bluetooth keyboard is still paired with it, and it's waiting for you to type on that. And so all you need to do is to go into that general preference, turn the Bluetooth off, go back into your app, and then your keyboard will appear.
We have another question, Nathan.
Sure.
From participant Andrew Owens.
All right.
He says, can you get the left-right arrow keys in keyboard function to go back to delete a letter besides the backspace button?
I haven't found a way to do that. What I do instead, and that's a very good question, okay, so I've typed some text in here and I want to go back and delete some. This is where that gesture, the touch and hold, comes in handy. If I touch my finger to the screen and hold, you'll see a little magnifying glass pop up, and then you can move the cursor wherever you would like to move it, and then you can either select the word or you can hit the backspace key and type in what you want there. I know a lot of people that are so used to doing that with a normal keyboard that they actually buy the Bluetooth keyboard so that they have that function where they can delete forward or delete backwards. And when you have a Bluetooth keyboard attached to it, many of the shortcut commands that you use normally on, say, your Macintosh, for example, Command A to select all, Command C to copy, Command V to paste, or if you're a PC user, Control V to paste, Control C to copy, work on the Bluetooth keyboards. Good question. Let's talk about a couple of the other apps. Most likely, if you've purchased an iPad, you're going to want to do mail and so forth. And so let's talk for a moment about some of these settings that are here. If I click on the settings app, it will take me in here. Let's talk about some of these settings. There is an airplane mode up here. Of course, if you've flown on an airplane, you'll know that they'll come over the speaker system and say, if you have any computers or cell phones, we want you to turn them off right now. If you turn on airplane mode, that turns off all internet Bluetooth access, and so you can comply there. So you'll notice as soon as I turned on airplane mode, my Wi-Fi turned off. Here in the network settings, this is where you can turn your Wi-Fi on or off or ask to join networks. If you have one that I don't have one that has the cell phone features built in, so I can't answer many questions about that. But notifications are things that that particular apps do for you. So, for example, a particular app may pop up a message on you like you have an appointment in 10 minutes or something like that, your calendar app. Those are notifications, and you can turn those on or off for about either totally, globally, or for app by app. Let's talk about mail and contacts and calendars. If you're wanting to set up an email account, it's quite easy to do. If you say add an account, you have the choice of Microsoft Exchange account, MobileMe, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL. or even another category which will kind of fit all the other ones that don't fit into these general ones. So for example, if you have a Gmail account, all you need to do is type in your name, your email address, your password, and then a description such as this is Nathan's Gmail or something, so it shows up that way in your mail program. When you hit next, it will verify that that's okay. Then it will ask you, what do you want on your what do you want to show to share with the iPad? Do you want just the email, or do you want the contacts, the calendars, and so forth? On my mail account, it looks differently depending on how you hold it. So for example, this is in portrait mode, and my inboxes are a button up at the top here. If you do it in landscape mode, then your boxes are over here. Whenever you enter something, so for example, I have 4 email accounts set up. I can monitor all of them at once using the all inboxes. That's called the unified mailbox in the iPad parlance. Whenever you do that, if you ever need to get back, you'll notice there's a little left arrow that says mailboxes up there, and that takes you back. And so anything that has a right arrow means you're going to go forward. Anything that has a left arrow will take you up the hierarchy a little bit. And so you can look at just, for example, here's my Microsoft Exchange email only, or my Nathan's Gmail only. Down here where it says accounts, you can see everything else. So you can see your inbox and your drafts and the messages that you sent and what you've put into the trash, and all the folders that you've set up to store things. Also, if you have boxes set up in any of your mail accounts that you've done on your computer, you can move them. So for example, here's a service request that's been completed by one of my employees, and so I want to move it to a particular folder that I've set up just to hold those. Up by next to the garbage can at the top of the screen, you'll see a little folder with a down arrow. If you tap that, it will show you all the boxes that you've set up for that particular account. And to move it, you can just tap that particular folder, and that one has been moved there. Also, if you click the edit button, you can choose multiple messages and move more than one at a time, or delete more than one at a time that way, just by going up and down your list. One of the other general settings that I'd like to share with you that are especially helpful to those with disabilities, those who are teaching special ed, is that Apple has accessibility features built into the iPad. And so if you go into General Accessibility, you can do things like VoiceOver. So for example, if I click VoiceOver and turn it on.
VoiceOver on. Landscape. Home button to the left. Settings. Alert. Important. VoiceOver changes the gestures used to control iPad. Are you sure you want to continue? Press the home button to cancel.
Now if I touch the OK button, it will tell me what that button is, but it won't actually do it until I double tap that.
OK button. Settings.
So now it's turned on. So
notifications. Locate brightness and wallpaper. Picture frame. Button selected. General. Mix. Speed hints. On. Double tap to toggle setting.
That's very helpful.
VoiceOver on. Double tap to toggle setting. VoiceOver off.
Another accessibility thing that's very helpful for those with seeing problems is the zoom. Zoom magnifies the entire screen. So to zoom, you just double tap with 3 fingers on the screen. To move around the screen, you drag with all 3 fingers, and then to change your zoom, you can with 3 fingers double tap and then drag up or down. So if I turn this on, if I put 3 fingers on the screen and go tap tap, that's zoomed me in. Now if I put 3 fingers on the screen, I can move around the screen like that. If I double tap, tap tap, and then keep my finger on the screen and start moving up toward the top, you see that zooms in even closer. Double tap, tap tap, and then pull down toward the bottom of the screen. That allows me to zoom back out. Some other accessibility features. In contacts and mail and notes, this doesn't work in the other apps, you can change the default text size. So if I do 56-point text, for example, and I go into my notepad, then everything I type will be in that big 56-point text. I'm going to turn that back off for now. Another thing that's very nice is you have white on black for people with visual acuity problems. For some, it's easier to read the screen when it's in this mode. And so that's very good. I found another useful thing for it is sometimes I like to read a book at night. If I have it in regular mode, it's like a bright light shining in mine and my wife's face when I'm reading a book at night, and she doesn't like that. So if I turn it into this mode, I can read a book, and it's a lot less distracting to her when she's trying to go to sleep. For those that have audio difficulties, you can change the stereo output to just mono output. You can turn on speak auto text. So for an example of that,
building.
You see it said that suggestion. Sometimes I like to have this turned on just for that reason, because often I'm just typing along and I'm not looking at the screen, and the iPad wants to substitute its own word in, and sometimes it does the wrong word. And so if I have this auto text accessibility thing turned on, it will flag me. It will actually pronounce the word that it's trying to insert in there, and I can go, whoops, that's not what I wanted, or yes, that's what I wanted. I can put the space, push the space bar and continue on. So that has a couple of nice features besides just the disability access feature. One of the things that you can do is we know that if you double click the home button, you get this at the bottom. But if in the settings, if you triple click the home, you can turn on or off a particular accessibility feature. So you can say, well, whenever I triple click, I want voiceover turned on, for example, and triple click again to turn it off, or black and white switched around, or toggle the zoom on and off. I personally prefer that it just asks me which one that I want. So if I triple click 1, 2, 3, then it gives me the choice, which one do I want to turn on or to cancel. there are a lot of there are a lot of different options in the general settings here. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. If you go online, and Apple has an iPad guide that explains all of these in detail online. One that I would like to take a moment with you, if you're working with children, is the restrictions. You'll find that an iPad is a kid magnet. Kids just love it. And they seem to be pre-wired. They know how to use it even before we adults know how to use it. And so on the restrictions, you'll probably want to protect your iPad a little bit. So you can click Enable Restrictions, and it will give you a passcode screen like this. I'm just going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, but you'll want to do something a little less obvious than that. And then it wants you to reconfirm. Now, anytime that somebody comes in, and say your child comes in and goes into restrictions and tries to change them, it's going to ask for that passcode first. So you can turn things on or off. If you don't want your child on the internet, you can turn Safari off. If you don't want them doing YouTube, you can turn that off. On the apps that do locations, you can say, when my child's using those, I don't want anybody to know where my kid is. I don't want this location part being turned on. You can, if you go in, you can say, don't allow changes to my email accounts, because you'll find a kid can trash an email account in just a couple of swipes. One nice thing is turn off in-app purchases, so that your child can't be in the game center and say, oh, I want to do that. Well, that costs $6.99. Oh, sure, you know. So you can do that. On the movies, you can set a particular level. So I can say, well, my kids can watch G and PG, but none of the other ones. TV shows. You can, for apps that are in the iTunes store, you can say, don't allow apps for anybody 9 or over, or, you know, those kinds of things. So you do have a lot of restrictions that you can set here. And if you're going to have kids use your iPad, it would be well worth your time to go through and explore those and set your iPad up so that your child is safe while using it, and that your iPad is fairly safe while using it. We've gone through several settings. We've gone through gestures. We've gone through the keyboards, things along that line. If you have any particular questions you would like to ask, I'd be happy to answer them. I can show you several apps that I've found that were useful to me. I'd like to talk to you about apps a little bit, if the internet will allow me. This is the App Store. The App Store is where you go to get all the other apps that you want. And a couple of nice things about it is that here's your top free. Down at the bottom you have featured apps, so you can kind of look through what Apple is recommending. They have different sections here, like new and noteworthy. They have sections for games, just for education, for news, and so forth. Their staff favorites, and then your account information down at the bottom. You can see what's hot. You can see what things have been released recently. You can go into their top charts. So here you have the top paid iPad apps, the top free iPad apps, top grossing iPad apps, and so forth. You can go in by category. So let's say I'm looking for productivity apps. You can view these by their release date or by their name or by the most popular. But one thing that I have found in the App Store is that it's hard to find what you're looking for. There are over 500,000 apps in the App Store right now. And so when they say there's an app for that, they're not kidding. There probably is. So I've found some other helpers that I found useful when looking for apps. If I have a bunch of apps already, I can slide my screen over to the left, and this will give me the search. I'm going to just type app. You'll notice that I have the App Store here. But let me show you a couple of other apps that I've found that are really good for first-time app users. This app called App Start is very good. It starts here with the welcome. If you tap on that, it's got a movie that will tell you how to use it and what are apps and what App Start will do for you. Now to get back, you just slide the screen back over. And so here's iPad 101. Here's the 6 basic tips you need to know about your iPad, how to create folders. I'll show you that in just a minute here too, and so forth. So this is a great app for iPad beginners because it answers most questions that first-time iPad users have. Plus it gives a suggestion of several apps that have passed muster and are very popular in the iPad world. App Start. Another one that I like is called App Shopper. And what App Shopper does is it gives me more choices than the App Store does. So I can come here and say, I am just interested in education. I only want things for iPad, and I want to sort by how popular they are. I would like just free ones, please. And let me hit those again. Education, iPad, all types, just free ones, and the most popular ones. So here are the most popular iPad apps in education right now. So as I scroll down through these, if I find one that I'm interested in, I can tap on it and it will give me screenshots of the app. It will give me a description. It allows me to read more. It'll tell me the app activity so I can see whenever the price has gone up or down or what have you. And then if I actually want it, by pushing buy, that's not going to actually buy it. What it's going to do is it's going to transfer me over to the regular App Store, and from there I can say I want it. Let me install it. I just need to put in my password and that app will download to my machine. There's a site on the internet called Applicious, Applicious, applicious.com, that keeps lists of apps. And as an educator, I found that that's a good site to go browse through, see what other educators think are some of the top apps that are out there.
We did have a question, Nathan.
Sure, go ahead.
It's from, just a minute, I lost it. From Denise Johnson. Mm-hmm. She said, I think I accidentally deleted my App Store app off my iPad when I cleared the apps at the bottom that were open. How do I get it back?
The App Store is one you cannot delete. It came with your iPad, and you'll notice that when I start jiggling it, it's still there. That's a really good question. When you're, excuse me, let me get down there. When you get these to jiggling like so, and I hit that little red minus button, that just turned that app off. And so now if I press my home button again, that will stop them jiggling, and then pressing the home button again will bring me back to the regular screen, and all my apps are still going to be there. So anything that you've turned, whoops, I triple clicked. Anything that you've turned off down here, just deletes it out of the memory. All right. This isn't really multitasking down here. You can't have two apps really running and doing things at the same time. But when you switch from one app to the others kind of go into hibernation, but they're still active in memory. And so if I click there, now I'm back in my app shopper again until I actually go in here and tell it get out of hibernation, everything. Did that answer your question okay? So your app store should still be up in your list of apps up here. It's not one you can delete. Now if you set one of these things to jiggling and you press the X on it, it'll say, are you sure you want to delete it? It will never just delete it automatically. You have to do that second click before it will go away.
Denise Johnson says she can't find her app still.
Okay. If you're on your home screen and you press the home button, or if you just swipe to swipe to the right a few times, you'll get to this search part. Just type in app up in the search part, and you should see your app store show up right there. And be able to go into it. Are you seeing it?
She said it did not.
It did not. Okay. All right. That takes us to the next problem. What do you do when you run into trouble? All right. And probably the best way to show you this one is to actually show you a video that shows you both the computer using iTunes and the iPad screen. Just a moment while I locate it here for you. It's up here higher. Just a second. Okay.
Wonderful as the iPad is, it can occasionally behave in confounding ways, refusing to charge, failing to show the on-screen keyboard, becoming suddenly mute, becoming unresponsive, or just generally acting in a funky way. In this movie, we'll look at common cures for a misbehaving iPad. Your iPad needs power to work, and that power often comes from the batteries found inside the device. You've plugged it into your computer's USB port, yet it tells you that it's not charging. So what's going on? The iPad, unlike the iPhone and iPod, requires 10 watts of charging goodness while the iPad is awake. On older computers, the USB 2.0 port doesn't provide that much power, and so the iPad won't charge while it's awake. Fortunately, the iPad tells you so with its not charging message in the top right corner of the display. Now, I keep emphasizing this while it's awake business because these ports will charge an iPad when it's asleep, though more slowly than a port that provides the full 10 watts. The solution? If your computer doesn't provide enough power, use the power adapter that's included with the iPad to charge it. And then there's the keyboard. You've picked up your iPad, launched Notes, and tap on a note to start typing, and nothing happens. That Bluetooth symbol at the top of the iPad's display is the hint. If you've paired your iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard or jammed it into the iPad's keyboard dock, the on-screen keyboard won't work because the iPad believes you're using a hardware keyboard. And now sound. You've downloaded a cool new game, you fire it up, and start blasting intergalactic cooties. The problem is, the iPad makes no sound. The first thing to check is the volume toggle switch on the iPad's side. Press it up to make sure you haven't muted the volume. Next, if you've configured the side switch above the volume buttons to mute the iPad, make sure that it's pushed up and thus unmuted. If that still doesn't work, find your iPad's headset or another pair of headphones with a 3mm plug and plug and unplug it a few times. Sometimes the iPad's headphone port can get gunked up, thus muting the iPad. This can clear it up. Another situation. You're working in an app, let's say it's Safari, and it suddenly becomes unresponsive. You tap and nothing happens. That app is locked up. There are a couple of ways to force quit it. First, press the home button to return to the home screen and then double tap on the home button. Locate the problem app in the row of running apps, tap and hold on it, and tap the minus icon to quit the app. Or press and hold on the sleep-wake button until the slide to power off slider appears. Now press and hold on the home button until the app quits and you return to the home screen. When you next launch the app, it will hopefully behave itself. If it doesn't, try restarting the iPad by pressing and holding the sleep-wake button and swiping the slide to power off switch. When the iPad shuts off, turn it on again by pressing and releasing the sleep-wake button. Worse yet, your entire iPad becomes unresponsive. Now, this is a rare occasion, but it can happen. When it does, press and hold on the sleep-wake button as well as the home button. In a few seconds, the iPad screen will go dark. This indicates that you forced it to shut down. To restart it, just press the sleep-wake button. If your iPad continues to behave in odd ways after this treatment, you may need to reset some settings. To do that, launch Settings, tap the General setting, and tap Reset at the bottom of the list of general settings. Start by tapping Reset All Settings. This resets the iPad's preferences and settings, but it doesn't affect any of your data or media. If you're having problems making connections to the outside world through Wi-Fi or 3G, try tapping Reset Network Settings. This will wipe out previously used network settings and flip Wi-Fi off and then back on. If nothing seems to be going well and you're not near your computer, you could try tapping Erase All Contents and Settings. This essentially returns the iPad to its condition when you first pulled it from the box. Everything you've added to it is wiped out, so beware. It's a desperate action and one that you shouldn't take lightly. It's so desperate, in fact, that I'm not going to demonstrate it now, as I don't really want to take the time to restore it. If you must have an iPad that works but don't care about what's on it, this is the way to go. If you're within reach of your computer, attach your iPad to it, select it in iTunes, and take a gander at the Restore button. If you press this button, iTunes will download the latest version of the iPad software if there's a newer version than what you currently have. And then it will install it on your iPad, overriding the software that's on it. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to keep my software just as it is. This gives your iPad a completely fresh start. Once that operation is done, you have the option to restore your iPad from a backup. But what about an iPad that doesn't appear in iTunes at all? You can try putting it into DFU mode. This is a recovery mode that forces iTunes to recognize it. To enter DFU mode, connect your iPad to your computer with a USB cable. Shut down the iPad. Press and hold sleep awake for 10 seconds and let go of the sleep wake button while continuing to hold the home button for 10 seconds. iTunes should throw up an error indicating that it's found an iPad in recovery mode. At this point, you'll see just a single summary tab in iTunes with the Restore button showing. Click Restore and the iPad will be restored. Once it is, you can then restore your data and apps from a backup. And finally, a solution that seems like voodoo, but sometimes works as a last-ditch effort. If your iPad seems totally confused and your computer can't update it because it won't appear in iTunes, attach it to a different computer. Sometimes iTunes on your computer plays a part in the problem. Connect it to a different computer, even a Mac if you have a PC or vice versa, restore it on that computer, and then bring it back to your original computer to restore it from an update. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's worked more often than not. My hope is that you'll never need any of these troubleshooting tips. But in case you do, they should set your iPad straight.
Anyway, those tips and tricks are good to know. If for some reason one of my apps that came with my iPad disappeared, I would probably hook it into my iTunes. If when the iPad shows up in my iTunes, I right mouse button click on the iPad's name over on the left column, and then choose Backup and back up my iPad, and then do that restore. That should restore your app there, and then when it gives you the option to restore your apps and things from the backup, to do that. Another nice thing that about the App Store itself is the App Store now has a purchased thing. So if you ever delete an app that you've purchased in the past, Apple is keeping track of that. And so here are lots of apps that I have purchased. Most of them you'll notice say installed on them, but there are some that I have deleted, such as this iDownloader, and it has a little cloud with a down arrow on it. If I click on that, it will ask for my account username and password, and then it will re-download that app to my iPad. I find that iPads are pretty good. They have very few glitches, but I have run into one or two. One was when I decided to buy my new iPad 2 a few weeks ago. I hooked my old iPad up, I backed it up, I hooked my new iPad in and said restore from the backup, and it didn't restore every app that I had purchased. And so it was good that I had this thing that I could go download them again, because Apple keeps track of which ones I've purchased and which ones I haven't. Anyway, yeah.
This is Sachin.
Hi.
In regards to the App Store disappearing, it's happened to me once, and the reason it was gone is because in the restriction I turned off app purchases.
Oh.
App install. If you turn that off in your restriction, your App Store app disappears from your iPad.
If you have gone in and enabled restrictions and turn enable restrictions off and see if your App Store reappears. Thank you, Sachin. That's one I hadn't thought of. We're getting close to the time that we're about to end, so I can show you other apps, but I wanted to give you a moment if you had questions. There are some great apps out there. Dragon Dictation is is one where I can just click and say, hello, my name is Nathan Smith, and then when I click it to stop, it types what I said, and then I can email it, I can cut or copy, put it in Facebook, put it in Twitter. So it's given me an app that literally takes what I say and turns it into text. But do you have other questions? One of the things that I really like while we're waiting for questions to come through, another app that's free is called Dropbox. Dropbox is available both for your iPods, your iPads, but it's also available for your Macs and your PCs. And what it does, you set up a free account on Dropbox that gives you up to 2 gigabytes of storage space, and then you can create your own folders and things like that. And so if I'm on my computer at home, I can take any file and drop it into a Dropbox folder. It gets synced up to the Dropbox account, and then any other computer that I have, I can either go to Dropbox.com and get to my things, or I can use my Dropbox here and pull things up. So this was on my computer this morning, but now I have it on my iPad just because of Dropbox. That's another fine program. Another one that I really like a great deal is called Flipboard. Flipboard allows me to hook into my Facebook account, hook into things. For example, this is KSL.com. I like to read news at KSL, and so here's all the news on KSL. And if I hit a particular one, then I can go in and view the original KSL article right there. On my Facebook, I can quickly in a book form just go through and see what my friends and family have posted. I can comment on them. I can anyway. It gives me easy access into my Facebook account, as well as I can go in here and I can say, well, I'm interested in business. I'd like the Bloomberg News. Here's the Bloomberg News. It lets me look through it, and if I like it, I can add it to my flipbook. So if I go back to my favorites, there's Bloomberg News right there. And so I have in one place my National Geographic, Popular Science, Engadget, Wired, CNET, all of these things where if I'm just wanting, I'm at the table eating a bowl of cereal or something, I want to read something, this is a great way to go in and have a look at it. So that's an app that's become a favorite of mine. There is just so much. I decided a couple of years ago that I needed to lose some weight, and so I found an app that called Calorie Counter. It's free, so I can search for a particular food. So if I have strawberries, for example,
stews.
I have to spell right though. I can go in there and strawberries will say, well, if I want to eat 1/2 cup of halved strawberries, That's going to be 24 calories, and it'll tell me the total fat and carbs and things like that. If I'm in the store, I can do a barcode scan. This is facing the table, so you can't see it, but I can put that red line over a barcode, and it will bring up all the food information on that particular one. I can keep track of my exercise, my diet, my weight, everything along that line. I can sync it up to a free account online and then have it on my little iPod too. Have another app that acts as a pedometer that's very accurate, and so I just put my iPod Touch on my hip and turn the pedometer on and go walking, and it'll tell me just exactly how many steps and how many miles that I've taken. So really, when they say there is an app for that, there really is. All you have to do is just go out and find it. I find that if I go out on the internet and just say iPad app and then type in keywords for what I'm searching for, I'll find what I'm looking for. Any other questions? Come in.
This is Becky.
Hi, Becky.
Any apps that you like for note-taking?
Aha. There are some wonderful ones. I found a bunch of them. I had all of these put in folders. Infinote is like an infinitely sized sticky note, so I can add notes and add to-dos and things like that, and then when I push it, it's a sticky note on my screen, and I can just keep adding more, and the screen keeps growing as I add more sticky notes to it. So there's my little to-do checkbox right there. That's a fun one. This notes thing, I like the one that just came with the iPad. Is pretty good for me. In fact, in my Gmail account, one of the things I can do is I can tell it to sync the note. So whenever I type a note on this, it ends up in my Gmail account as well. So if I'm online, I can, on a regular computer, I can get to the notes there.
So just the notes that comes with the, okay.
Yeah, with the iPad, that's actually a pretty good little program. There are a ton of them out there. I've tried quite a few of them. There's an app called Wunderlist, W-U-N-D-E-R list, that the company, it's free. You have a Macintosh application, a PC application, then an app for your iPad, your iPhone, and it acts as your to-do kind of thing. And so you can set up your tasks and things, and then whenever you click this little button up in the upper left corner, that syncs with the Wunderlist site. And so now if I get on my Mac and I pull up Wunderlist there and I hit that sync button, everything I did on the iPad is going to show up on my Mac. And so this is one where I can have apps across multiple machines, and they're all syncing one with another. So that's a very powerful to-do list kind of thing, shopping list kind of thing, that are very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me show you one other one that actually cost me a couple of dollars, but it's called Pin Ultimate. This is one of the most popular apps. So let me switch into this mode. So this one allows you just to write on pages and draw pictures and what have you. And once you've created, you can have as many notebooks as you'd like. Once you've created them, you can email them to yourself. You can export them as PDF files. So instead of drawing on a napkin at lunch, you know, if you just need to scribble or doodle or take some notes that way, that's pretty good. That drag and dictation is pretty good if you have internet access or through your 3G. You do need access to the internet for that drag and dictate to work, but then you can just talk into that and it'll turn whatever you have into text, and then you just copy and paste it into like your notes application, things along that line. I was going to take a second and just show you quickly how to create a folder. If you want to organize things in the folders, if you get those apps all jiggling like that and you drop one app on top of another and let go, that creates a folder, and then you can give the folder a name. Whoops, shopping.
Shop.
And then just tap outside of it. Now you have a folder, and so now whenever you click on the folder, that opens up, and then you can start the app, or you can click outside the folder. And so if your iPad is starting to look like this, where you have 13 screens full of apps, you can start creating folders and organizing them into folders and fit them all on one screen if you like, based on their categories. We're just about out of time. So it's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Nathan Smith for presenting, and I'd like to remind all participants that we'd encourage you to take the evaluation about your experience so we can plan for future trainings, and that link is available on the AggieCast. Also, this training will be archived online in a couple of weeks after it's been closed captions. DVDs will also be available. To check for the online resource, you can go to our webpage at uatpat.org and check under resources. I will also be sending an email out when that is available. If you have ideas or needs for future trainings, we'd appreciate any comments on that. You can also look for an email from me for our next training coming up this fall, and you can also check out our blog calendar for the next upcoming training, which again is utahatprogram.blogspot.com. We appreciate you for attending and hope you enjoyed your experience.